going to try and keep this introduction under 10 minutes, but please bear with me. Brevity is not particularly a strength of mine. There are a number of things I want to do with this channel, but here are some of them. I want to have conversations that are frank, civilized, and humble. I want to talk to a variety of people that you or I might not otherwise necessarily get to meet or get to talk to in this way, and I hope it will help diffuse controversial issues, depolarize political situations, because we'll be having these humble and frank conversations, civilized conversations, not so much with the goal to convince each other or you, but merely to bring out the ideas and discuss the issues. I want to try not only to understand the ideas that, or issues that my guests are talking about, but I want to, as much as I can, actually feel what it's like for them as relates to whatever it is we're talking about. I want to talk to people who are unusual in some way, physical, mental, or perhaps otherwise. Not just to understand what it's like to deal with whatever is unusual about them, but also to see them as being separate, although also connected with those characteristics. I think it's easy, especially these days perhaps, to quickly try and accept someone without fully processing whatever it is that's unusual about them. An example I like to use is that if I'm missing an arm, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have any particular opinion on me as a person, but it still might be distracting or alarming or a bit off-putting, or you might be curious, but you might be awkward about it. It would be nice to be able to talk to me about that and understand maybe how I got it, but it was some things about life that were different or difficult because of it. And then we could get on with just knowing each other as people. I think that phenomenon of being distracted in various ways by something unusual about someone applies to all sorts of anomalies. I want to talk to people about their political beliefs, or their about their political beliefs. Beliefs that may seem alarming or very different from something that you or I are used to. But I want to separate them from their beliefs as well and see how they're people. I want to focus on positive common ground between myself and people who seem unusual. It's easy, I think, if you're arguing with someone, say, well, let's say about politics, to just become aware of all the things that they're against and you're against, but you're against them because they seem to be against things that matter to you. And you don't find out what they're for. You don't find out what's common. And if you go back and forth like that, it's like you're just standing there saying no, no, no to each other. And it doesn't help, I don't think. So I want to see how much positive common ground I can find between me and people where I might not think there was any. The same thing goes for talking to people who have particular religious views or anti-religious views. I want to find the positive common ground with them too. The goal isn't to agree with them. The goal is to partly just understand them better, but also see the person in some way separate from the beliefs. Sure, they're connected, but they're also separate. And I want to focus on the person. Not only will the content of these conversations be interesting, I think, but also just the whole mood. For me to have the opportunity to practice in a sort of a controlled setting, those kinds of conversations that are humble, civilized, and frank, that are honest but not brutally honest. People have, I think, they can have the idea that the most honest way of being honest involves a certain amount of intentional hurt or venting of resentment. And I don't think that's necessary. And I want to practice being as honest and frank as I need to be to ask the questions I want to ask without having any ill will against my guest. And I get to practice having goodwill towards people. And I think that will be very useful to me and hopefully useful to my viewers. The other thing about this is just the amount that I want to focus on the conversations improving me, whether it's the information or practicing the actual conversation itself. And that's something I think that will be interesting and helpful for people to watch. Just to watch people trying to have difficult conversations. I want to have an informal style. I have a somewhat informal style now. I don't want to be polished. I want to be competent. But I think there's some virtue to having things in a more informal setting, to not editing tremendously. And that's also just my own personality. If I allowed myself to edit very much, I might never stop, and I would fuss over it. I'd fuss over how I said something and how people might take it. And instead, I want to focus on having good, honest conversations primarily. And people can give me feedback about how they interpret things I've said or my guest has said, things they think I just got flat out wrong. And I want to have a very open and comfortable interaction with my viewers if I can. You don't need to loudly argue with me about something. Just tell me if you think I got something wrong or if you have a different opinion. I want this to be very educational for both of us, and the opportunity to have people giving me all kinds of feedback about how I could speak better, how I could converse with someone better, things I should read about or look up so that I'm more informed. I think all of that would be very useful. I encourage you to send me through whatever means are appropriate and suitable for you all sorts of feedback. Send me letters about your experience, suggestions for who I should talk to. I want this to be an interactive, almost an interactive and educational hub for both of us. I'm going to try and post many links in the description of my video so that you can have, it's like further reading. And you can understand what we're talking about better in the conversation. If my guest refers to someone, maybe I can find a video of that person on YouTube. What else do I have here? I've covered most of it, actually. I guess the other thing is that part of the unpolished style that appeals to me is that I'm going to be quite self-aware, I think. I think it's something that comes naturally to me. I think it's an interesting and useful element to have in a channel. Partly I don't want there to be barriers between me and my viewers or my guest. I don't know. I put down self-aware, and I had something in mind when I put it there, but I'm actually not sure what it is. But in any event, I certainly don't want to present myself as being entirely polished or put together, because that is simply and fairly obviously not true. This is in many ways a channel where I'm hoping that I can find a mutually beneficial way that I can practice various skills and can improve. And I'm hoping you'll help, and I'm hoping you'll do that because it will be mutually beneficial. And because you won't have to argue a particular point, again, loudly and aggressively to get it through to me. I will make a point as best I can to take in any feedback you give me in whether it's YouTube comments or emails or tweets. I'll try and take it all in and make use of it as best I can. The more digestible a format you can put it in, of course, the easier it will be for me to make use of it. I'm hoping that in some ways that this channel, perhaps this is a grand hope, but I'm full of those, I'm hoping that we can move some things, some issues, a step further along from where they were. And part of that is by making it less of an argument. The conversations will be less of an argument, and I'm hoping my interaction with my viewers can, in some cases, be less of an argument. Perhaps I'm going on about this too much, but I do want to emphasize that point. In any event, these, as you can see, if I'm talking particularly directly to you, which I think I will do from time to time, there is a tendency for me to ramble a little bit. Hopefully that will not go on so much that it will become horribly tedious and pointless. But I do think it will add an element that'll be beneficial in some ways. It'll at least be a trade-off. Anyways, I'm trying to keep this under 10 minutes, and I believe I've succeeded, so I am going to end now. I'm going to permit myself one edit here because I thought of something else that I think is important. There's this idea I've had over the last few years, I'm still working on, that you don't really understand something unless you're interested in it. Or at least, the more complicated or controversial an issue is, the better you can understand it if you're actually interested in it. And one of the things that I think I can, one of the goals I have for this show that I think I can easily meet is being interested in whatever it is I'm talking about and with whomever I'm talking to. I have a lot of interests, and I get quite interested in things. It's in fact one of my main sources of enjoyment. And so something that, whether I'm talking directly to you or to another person, that I think will come through that you may find interesting or entertaining or helpful, is that I'll be quite interested in whatever it is I'm talking about. And particularly where I think that is useful is in controversial things, because they can become just a battle. And maybe when you're self-conscious about what you think you should feel or about defending what you think. And it's very hard, I think, to play around with ideas and explore when you're in that state. And I don't want to ever be in that state, well, ever, but especially in these conversations, or if I'm talking to you about some thought I've had. So that's something I can pretty reliably promise you, is that I'll always be interested in what I'm talking about and always be playing around with it. You'll notice that I think as I've gone along through this video, I've sped up as I talk, as I got more comfortable. And that can be a problem, but it also is because I think I'm so focused and interested in whatever it is I'm talking about. So hopefully that will be something that can help diffuse things and sort of fluff them up. You can get compressed and tense about issues and afraid, and I don't think that's helpful to sorting them out, especially if it's something new that's come along and people are muddled about it, or they feel awkward about it. Being really curious, I think, is very helpful, and so that's another thing that I think the show will be good at putting forward. Now I think I'm done.